Hi everybody. I wanted to go over the first part of your project plan and do it as sort of a group critique, quickly going through um, all the first steps in the project definition, title, purpose, goals, objectives. I think I'm getting a little confused. I think it's maybe the way I expressed it. I just want to clarify a few things that'll help you sort of really get specific and concise and clear about those first few entries. Um, Right here, I've actually looked up and added on the what to do page the definitions of a purpose, which is the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. A goal is an aim or desired result, and an objective is a thing aimed at or sought. A goal. Since objective is kind of derived from the word goal, I think we can stop using the word objective. It really means very much the same thing. Many of you are putting in goals and objectives, and it's kind of confusing and muddy the waters a bit. So I think you can go back in and just take out the word objectives. I started by just throwing in a very simple one that I did. It's just for an actual project. It's called, the title is very simple, Computer-Based Budgeting Intervention. The purpose, the why, is so veterans can understand their finances in order to promote better money management. So put in the why, because really the purpose is why are you doing this? Very simple, straightforward, and keep it just about the purpose and the why. Don't get elaborate beyond that. The goals, or in other words, how will it be accomplished? A computer-based system with a series of easy-to-use interactive screens. Users will enter income and expenses in order to get analysis a little typo here I'll fix after, and reports on how they spend their money. So it's very simple. What's the goal? How am I going to get accomplished and to satisfy the purpose of why I'm doing it? I don't get more elaborate on this in terms of requirements or scope or context. That'll come later. Keep it very simple. I should get it with one or two sentences. Okay, so now I'm going to look at some of the other people's definitions to start with and make some comments in general. Okay, so Brian here, the purpose or the why, the reason of this project is to create an online portfolio, fine, where I can display examples of my work and list my skills and qualifications. Okay, pretty straightforward. Goals and objectives. The objective or the goal, just the goal, is to create a website. Okay. So in other words, you're going to create a website in order to make an online portfolio. And so actually what's starting to happen here is that each of these three sentences is really just restating the purpose or the reason. You could say the reason for this project is to create a website. Okay. I guess it's more the goal really starts with line 2, which is that I hope to, as a result of this, exemplify the skills I have learned through the program, and so forth. And will act as a vehicle to display my work. That's really more the reason. So really I would just redo the goal here a little bit to say how you're going to do it. It's going to be an online, it's going to be a website, and it's going to be a series of pages. How are you going to do it? It's, you know, very simply. You don't have to get into the rationale or support of it at this point. You can do that later on, the contacts and other places. So just the goal is, what will you have when you're done? Okay. Now as I go through each of these, by the end I'm going to get sort of worn out from doing this. So let me blow this up a little bit. So don't, a lot of what I'm saying is redundant, is the same for a lot of what you've done. So please excuse me if at the end I sort of fly through these. So Katie has a great idea for a review of, as she puts it, vegan cookbook review. And so that's what I need to know the purpose or the reason for it is. Which is, see, these things are her own personal goals and goals for the course, which are fine. I don't think we need these here. I think those are sort of basically understood. You can express those to me as your professor or as the director when we get into the program. That this project, the The project plan is as if you've been commissioned to make this thing, and you're creating a project proposal or plan for a client, which in this case is just yourself or me or your advisor. But in any case, it's as if a client has asked you to do this, so present it that way. So in this case, Kate should put in the purpose of the site, which is really she can derive from right out of her initial ideas in terms of what ideas she was trying to do, which is to create a review of vegan cookbooks. That's the reason. And then the goals, how will she get there? So I think she does this. She will create a blog that successfully combines words, photos, and video. Great. And it'll be visually pleasing and can function on desktop and handheld devices. So Katie should redo her purpose here in terms of being specific about, I mean, it's kind of in here, vegans in print, the title, but the purpose should elaborate on that a little bit. Okay, so once again, so if you substitute the word reason to see if it makes sense, working on Elise here. The reason for this site is to build Music of the Heart's business into a hybrid type educational objective. So this is more like the goal. The goal is to create a hybrid type educational site that allows users and students to take music lessons. Okay. So in this case, the goals and objectives here are much too long. These you would roll right into, would get rolled back in, really for the requirements and other areas of the project plan we'll get into later on. The great going into the detail now. What's great that you thought about it and created lists, a little too early. The goal is really very straightforward, 1 or 2 sentences. What is the end result? What will I have at the end? And what you'll have at the end is really what you stated in the purpose. A hybrid type educational website that would allow users and students to take music lessons and be able to do much of the projects online. That's it. It's the goal. What's the purpose of the site? And once again, I think if she goes back to the right reason she's doing this, let's see if we can find it here. Really, it's the goal. The reason is to support, I believe it's her husband's, to use online tools to support her husband's music business. That's it. Doesn't have anything more than that. Very straightforward. So, but you contact me for more clarity if you would like on this. Hopefully, I'm making some sense. Who knows? Okay, James here. Very brief. Let's see. The reason, the purpose, why. To build a website. Okay. Okay, so here you don't need to really tell me about the opportunities. That will come later, sort of the context of why the context of why it's being built. And okay, so here it's flipped. The purpose is really to build a blog focused on wine, or to build a publication focused on wine. The goal is, it kind of needs to be defined here, what you're going to have when you're done. But so I think you just need to flip these a little bit. Don't overthink it. Maybe you can go back to your original statements about what you want to do in order to see if the key is there. You could say that the goal is a WordPress site that will use a variety of plugins in order to support doing this, that, and the other thing in order to do so you can do your blog about wine tastings, etc. In effect, by putting those things in the goal, that you obviously will develop more advanced skills, WordPress skills, because otherwise that's a good reason to put something in the goal that will support what you want to do. And once again, if I'm sort of not making sense, contact me, but hopefully it'll come across as I go through more of these. Okay, let's skip down to project definitions for Carrie. Okay, this is pretty good. The reason or the purpose or the why of this is to facilitate local governments in exchange of information in accordance with open meeting laws, while streamlining the process for more efficient workflow. Okay, the reason this is being done. It doesn't talk about how it's going to get there. Okay, so the goal, the end result, will be a web-based portal to store and exchange and engage citizens regarding information. Okay, it's really, you can start to a web-based portal to store and exchange information. You don't need to restate in the goal this part, well, to some of it, what is already partially in the purpose. By having an access point to exchange information prior to the meetings. Well, okay. This is a little bit long. You can elaborate more on this later on in the project plan. Once again, the goal and objective are the same thing. I'm reading the second paragraph here. The goal and the reason. Yeah, so this second sentence here is really kind of the same thing, very much as the purpose is the reason you're doing it. Reason for the project is to develop. Well, okay, it's getting. I'm mixing it up a little bit. Once again, but very specific on what the end result would be in terms of doing this, and you can save some of this other stuff for later. I won't talk about project definition 2 here because I think you get the idea is probably similar. Yeah, right. So the idea, the purpose here is very good. Okay, the goal is, and how would you do it? Okay, moving along. Okay, so Courtney's is pretty good. The title is pretty straightforward. The purpose, the reason is because she's doing this is because it's hard to keep track of things in the past in this business, and explains why. And he's had to do things only by word of mouth. Okay, so you don't really, so yeah, so the purpose is good and the goals and objectives are fine because it's what the goal, in order to take care of, to satisfy the reason you're doing it, is to create a streamlined ordering process and give customers one place to order and place their goods. It's a very straightforward. I think the purpose could be a little shorter, but this is really pretty good because the purpose, the reason for doing it is here, and the goal of how it's going to be accomplished. So I'm pausing in between these to look them over so I can get through these a little bit quicker. So I'm going to pause now and look at the next one. Okay, so several of you are planning online portfolios. One thing you can do, and this is true for everybody, is you don't have to say anywhere that it's for ICM1 class to complete the program or to fulfill the requirements. That's a given and it's assumed. So I think you can just leave those out. It's really, ultimately it's for you, and obviously for you is for the program, but you can leave that out. Portfolio, so you want to say what's the reason. So if it's not for the, so it's really, so what's the reason you're doing it, or the purpose. The purpose is to create an online portfolio, to create a portfolio showcasing my work, or to, whatever you want to say. The goal, how you will get there for it, the end result will be a web-based portfolio, let's say, that will showcase my talent. So this is pretty fun. This is fine. And the goal to use coding she learned in the program. You might want to say goal is to use coding to improve my coding skills. I guess this is fine. You can say it's from the master's program. I mean, I don't want to make it too outside the context of what it's for. You should say that the reason, one of the reasons they're doing it is in order to help you land a job in the field of media. So that's one of the reasons you're doing it. To get there, the goal will be to create a website showing my work. Okay, so you get that this is really the purpose. The purpose of this project is to help me land a job in the field of media. To get there, my goal, how I'm going to do it is to create an online portfolio, showcase my talents. Even that's really the reason, using coding and various techniques. Okay, so let me move on from this one. I think you kind of get the picture, hopefully. Okay, so on Adrian's here, I think as I go through these, I repeat myself, you'll kind of get the idea of what's the difference between a purpose and a goal in this context. So the goal, the purpose here is pretty good. The purpose of this project is to create a web page providing educational benefit, etc. So if you take out to create a web page, the purpose of the project isn't to create a web page. The purpose is to provide educational benefit of interacting for colleagues on the equine team, targeted toward people with minimal knowledge of equine species. Okay, that's the purpose, basically to provide educational benefit. How will I do that? I will create, what's the goal? How will I do it? I will create a web page to give an interactive platform for quick fixes on industry questions. This will allow colleagues to feel more comfortable interacting when speaking, blah, 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 and so forth. Another goal, another objective is to support colleagues, okay? So this is very good. If you just take out the purposes of the project is to provide an educational benefit and take out this here, then you're fine. You're starting to get that a bit as I go through this? Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so Bob here is going to make a little game. So, I mean, the purpose, the reason is pretty straightforward and good. Well, you're not going to, you're going to produce it, you're going to host it. The reason you're doing it is to create a podcast create a game where cash prizes are awarded to contestants through answering series of questions worth escalating values. Okay. To produce, host, and promote, that's not really a purpose, that's really how you're going to do it. A purpose is not a verb. Okay. It's really the reason you're going to do it. And the reason, the why, is in order to create a game show podcast, or what's the end result. The goal, well, I'm getting mixed up here, but maybe I'm overdoing it. Okay, back up a bit. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to create a new and original game show podcast where cash prizes are awarded to contestants. Period. It's the purpose. The goals and objectives. The goal of the project is to produce a podcast. That's how you're going to do it. You can say where it's going to be. You can say it's going to be onto, how it's going to be developed. The objective of the project, it's not the end result of the project itself is not to enhance the portfolio. It could be used for that purpose later on. Notice the word purpose, so it's really part of the reason, which you don't really need to add here. I think we all assume that you want to use this to enhance your portfolio and your work and potentially get it out to production companies. In the context, when you in the project definition, context is where you put all essentially the backstory of why you're doing this and what it's for and the context. So you can save that for later. Okay. Okay, so Gregory's here is a little mixed up, and many of them are. I mean, this is this difference between purpose and objectives and mission statements. That's a whole another one. Gets very hairy, and I think that you wonder why do we go through this exercise, but I think in working on the language, helping to define these, it's really helpful to clarify and come back to point to something. So in this case, the purpose really is probably an objective. It's how it's going to happen. It's going to happen by creating a webisode that lives on a website that will promote a potential online series. I think the reason and the purpose is here. The purpose of the project is to effectively promote an online series and build a solid website, or an online webisode series and build a solid following, perhaps. The objectives or the goals in order to do that is create a pilot for an episode, develop a storyline, establish an online experience. I think really the goal here, and everything else supports that, is to establish an online experience that allow people to take a look at the pilot and get more information on future episodes. That's really the bottom line in terms of what the goal, what the end result will be. This other stuff will support that. Develop a storyline, there'll be a requirement. Create a pilot, that's part of the same things, establish an online experience, same difference. We talked about this, how this learn how to effectively promote is really the reason. As far as the last one, as far as the technical component, you can take those out. I think you can put those later in the context or in part of other parts of the plan in terms of how you're going to do it, a requirement for how it's going to be put together. So, okay, moving on. Okay, so Kasha here, this is very similar to the other one about a portfolio. In this case, the reason, the purpose is sort of mixed up in the objective, the goals as well. The reason, or the is of the project is to, the reason you're doing it is to create an online portfolio that will showcase interactive media skill set for Pretend, right? The goal is right here. The goal of the project is to display completed interactive media projects on a website or whatever. So in other words, your purpose here is really not the purpose. I said toss that out. We all know why we're doing this. It's to complete the project. But really is that you can just move this purpose up, this goal here up to the purpose, and the second sentence is really the goal. That's simple. You can elaborate a little bit more if you want to, but remember, we have a lot more to write about these projects. So these are really simple, straight, concise statements that sort of frame the whole picture of what we're trying to do. Paris here is pretty good, succinct, concise. The purpose, the reason is to showcase the Girl Talk Foundation's accomplishment, promote 10th anniversary. Great. The goals and objectives should be elaborate a little bit or just throw in some words that how are you going to do it. So you could say to increase our following all social networks. Yeah, so how are you going to accomplish the purpose? So you're going to reward volunteers, you're going to increase following, and gain sponsorship. Okay, I like to know where you're going to do that. Is it going to be on the website? You could say I'm going to revise, refine the website and social media networking areas in order to add features that will reward volunteers, gain sponsorship, and so forth. But this is pretty straightforward and I think pretty much tells the story. Okay, so I think this is pretty well done as far as a portfolio one. The purpose, the reason is to create an online, I would say just say portfolio that will help procure freelance opportunities. Bingo, stop. You can take off the bit about the master's project. We all know it's going to fulfill requirements. That's fine. I mean, you can leave it if you want, but that's not required. The goals and objectives. Okay, the goal, the how, the end result will be a custom design portfolio using WordPress. You can take out objective here. That will be a clean online design allowing the focus to be on content. And then he mentions a mobile first design strategy will be employed, which I think is fine because that's going to be that sort of requirement is significant to Scott in terms of something he wants to work on. So it's fine to be in here because it's going to drive a lot of how he puts it together in terms of being mobile first and exploring that as a capability. So this is pretty well done. Jen's here is very straightforward. I think it's pretty much on the button. She says it will satisfy a graduate requirement while without getting specific, but you could take that out if you want or leave it. The goal is to create a website, and she lists very specific goals: 2 writing samples, 2 samples. I think you might want more than a couple samples of stuff. But that will happen more when she gets into the master's project in terms of how many pieces are put into it. But in general, as far as if you're thinking of portfolio, think about the full range of the work you did in the interactive program, and then think about what kind of statement you want to say about yourself. But once again, that'll come later on. Don't worry about that so much now. Okay, almost done here. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to the next person's page, and then I'll, if this one will come in. Well, I think Lorianne really, talk about less is more. Once again, you can take this out, but the purpose to educate cancer patients about the benefits of diet and exercise, etc. The goal. That's what am I going to have at the end to do this? A website called this, and maybe an app. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you wanted to indicate a website will have this or that and the other feature or not, but once again, those things will come later as a requirements in terms of what the site is going to do. You're going to have to, what are you actually building will be elaborated on later on. So this is minimal, but satisfies the purpose and goal portion of the definition. Shannon's here. I'm a little confused by me. I kind of get what she's trying to do, but I think that the purpose and the goal here needs to be, and she's actually done other parts of the project definition. I think the reason she's doing this is the reason really is what she put in the goal. The reason for the purpose of this is to support a hypothesis on why television ratings have decreased. I plan on working in the television industry, and all this stuff can go into context. You don't have to say that you're fulfilling a master's degree. So really, this is the reason. And the goal has to be, what's the end result going to be? Is this going to be a research paper housed on a website? Is it going to be just a website? Is it going to be in the form of a blog? Is it going to be a video? How are you going to do this? Because I don't see that here. So, yeah, I'm not sure what you're building. You should put that in the goal, and put this in here. Should be your purpose. Okay, but I mean, I understand it, but I don't know what actually you're making. Perhaps it was in your original piece here. Because she says in either a video or a website want to analyze what happened to television. Okay, so at this point, for now, in your project definition, in the goal, make a commitment to whether it's a website or a video, website and video. And remember, you can change that later on. It's questioned. Remember, it's a fluid document for all of you. It's a fluid document that will change as you go along. So you're not, if you put something down here now, it doesn't mean you're like, that's it, you're committed to it. You'll work on the rest of the project definition. You'll start to do the rest of the project plan, and you might come back and change this. The goal at the end is to have a project plan that you feel is complete and ready to go. It will evolve and change as to get there. You might get to the end and go back, I have to go back and restate the reason. I've discovered these new things or the purpose. So at this point, Shannon should make a commitment to either a website or a video or both, and then come back later and modify depending on what she finds out. And are almost done. Okay, so Matthew's here is similar to Shannon's in terms of that the goal and the purpose of many of you is flipped. The purpose is to develop a research on a topic. No, that's what you're going to do to satisfy something. I think the reason, the purpose, is right here, is to support my hypothesis that diversity representation on broadcast networks has shown little growth. That's the reason. In order to get there, the goal, the end result, will be to do research that will be shown in a website. Okay, here it is. The goal of the project is to create a website showcasing the research. And you can add the other stuff up here, which is really the context. So this is really quite simple. You can elaborate a little bit with what, the website, things that might be in the website in order to do that. But this really is the reason for it right here. Okay. And finally, yeah, so another example of flipping goals and purpose. The purpose of the website is to show my freelance work and portfolio work, which is here. Okay. The goal, in order to do that, will be to display all my work on the internet, and will contain ways to contact me and to see my work. So you could say that actually the goal is a combination. The goal is to showcase my freelance and portfolio work and have a way for people to contact me. And then the goal, the end result, will be a website. I don't think you have to say to inspire people, because of course you want to do that. So keep it very straightforward, and not so much about the effect it'll have. It should be more about what exactly you're gonna make. So that's pretty much it. I've gone over a huge amount with you, and I know this is very long-winded, and if you've gotten to the end, congratulations. But I think it's, this early definition, part of the definition, is when you're talking about the goal, the purpose and the goal, really, like I said earlier, frames the whole project. It becomes a jumping off point. And when you're getting into your project plan, you should go back and say, is everything I've written, written and supported and planned, still supporting that purpose and goal? And if it's not, then you have to change it, perhaps, but maybe it means you have to change the goal or purpose. And it's this reiterative circle going back and forth. So good luck with that, and I know it's been a lot. If you have any individual questions, please contact me, and thanks for watching.